All right, guys, I just wanted to welcome you to a little talk that we've been having quite frequently with a lot of my patients. So one of the things that we talk about quite frequently is why we hurt, pain is a very real thing for a very huge chunk of people. It can be debilitating. It can affect your livelihood. It can affect your mood. It can affect your sleep. It can affect your relationships. And so what we're going to talk about today is, why do we have pain? What's the purpose? The biggest thing I like to tell everyone is pain is a lot like the check engine light or your empty gas light in your car. It's not going to go off until something has severely gone wrong for a significant amount of time. So you aren't running out of gas when you magically hit less than 1/8 of a tank. You're running out of gas slowly every time you drive. It's the exact same way with pain. You finally begin to work your way towards this injury. You finally get down this road and you get far enough down it that your body says, I can't reel it back now. Okay? That's where you generally end up having to do something about this pain in order to keep it from becoming debilitating or ending up in a surgical suite or in a doctor's office having to get pain meds or something else. So a few of the things that I try to really emphasize with my patient base is dysfunction happens long before pain ever shows up. Okay, so we have to get the idea that pain is the main problem really kind of out of our minds. Pain is a great signal that we definitely need to do something. But unfortunately, if all we're doing is treating pain, we end up missing a lot of the equation. So someone that's way smarter than me once told me, it's the victims that cry out, not the criminals. So when, for example, I see a lot of knee and ankle injuries that we end up tracing back to hip and low back weakness. We see a lot of core instability. We see a lot of glute and pelvic instability. The reason for this is when those hips become unstable, you start to see knees collapse. You start to see a bunch of pressure being applied to the inside of that knee. You start to begin to see the foot being overly stressed, and things can show up as plantar fasciitis. You can ultimately end in stress fractures. Just a whole host of problems show up. So we have to keep in mind that pain in one area can really be a signal of a problem in another. Okay, we've been hearing this more and more and more in the idea of treatment of extremities and treatment of other sports injuries especially, but it applies to every single profession I can think of. Think of somebody that sits at a desk for hours a day. They come in with headaches, they come out with neck pain, they come in with numbness and tingling in their hands. And a lot of it, if we just chase back and say, oh, their hand's the problem, and we work on their wrist, we work on their hand, but we never look at the fact that their head is sitting something like this and stressing every inch of everything that they've got, and their shoulders are rolling forward and placing pressure on the nerves and on the blood supply going down, we end up having huge issues. So this is why we have to make sure we are assessing the true dysfunction that's happening as opposed to just looking at the pain. Like I said, the biggest things that we see, usually we can trace back to something in the core. If we're looking at a hand, we're always going to go back to the shoulder, back to the neck, sometimes even back to the shoulder blades and how they move, because those are the main stabilizers of that area. If we have too much motion in one joint, your body will seize down another area to try to stabilize it. If you have not enough strength in one area, it'll seize down. The same thing is if one joint is restricted, so say you don't have enough motion in the shoulder, you'll begin to overextend the wrist, overextend the elbow, and you'll end up with things like tennis elbow, carpal tunnel, a lot of these different itises. And it's not because of a major issue at the joint, it's because it's trying to make up for something you're missing elsewhere. Okay, so this is kind of one of the hallmarks that I talk about a lot in my practice. We talk a ton about we have to get back to that root cause. That root cause can be anything from mobility to stability, and unfortunately, as Gray Cook has said many times, you can't fix a stability problem with mobility, and you can't fix a mobility problem with stability. So when somebody comes in and we start talking and we start bringing an injury back to a central area, or we start bringing it back to an area that you may feel is unrelated, but if we can show you some movement problems, we can show you some weakness, we can show you some deficit, and show you that this is a bigger issue than just the pain. Pain is a big thing that we have to address, and if I'm not taking care of that, then that's a problem. But we have to go all the way back to the dysfunction, or else that pain's going to come back as soon as you walk out of the door. Okay? So I just wanted to reach out and just let you guys know that there's so much more to do with pain than just covering it up with, whether it's with medication or whether it's with soft tissue work or whether it's with any kind of treatment that's out there. We have to make sure that we're treating the actual dysfunction. So if you guys have any questions, feel free. I'm going to tag this video here in just a little bit. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them on there, ask them on the Facebook page, and I'll address them on a future video, or I'll try and reach out to you. Y'all have a great day, and I hope you got something good out of this, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.